First story. I demanded my son to accept his half-sister, and my now wife as his mother after my wife's entitled husband and her kids disowned her for getting pregnant with me. Now my entitled son refuses to accept his new family, says it's not his responsibility to raise my affair child, and has abandoned us. I 45M recently got married. A little over a month ago, actually. My new wife 42F and I had been together for just under 2 years, most of it long distance. We met through mutual friends, and while that format came with its challenges, we spent a lot of time communicating, traveling when we could, and planning ahead. Eventually, we decided it was time to make things permanent, especially for her daughter's sake. My wife has a 4-year-old daughter. Sweetest little girl I've met, bright, affectionate, and incredibly intuitive for her age. She's had it rough, though. She was born as the result of an affair my wife had during her first marriage. Her ex-husband found out during the pregnancy, demanded a paternity test after the baby was born, confirmed he wasn't the father, and cut ties with both my wife and the child. My wife's older children, who are all in their late teens and early 20s, resent her, but they especially took it out on the youngest. They refer to her as a reminder or the mistake. Some of them have said cruel things about her being tainted. It's ugly. My wife made the painful choice to start over entirely in a new place, because staying in that environment was starting to chip away at our daughter's innocence. That's where I came in. We decided to settle down together, and after a lot of conversations and thought, we brought our households together. That means my 16-year-old son, my only child from my late wife, is now living with us and has a new stepmother and stepsister. I want to be clear here. I know this is a big change for him. He lost his mom young. I didn't date for years. I didn't bring women around him casually. So to him, this probably feels sudden. But this wasn't impulsive, we were careful. I waited until I was sure about the relationship before I introduced them. That was nearly 2 months ago. They got along fine at first. Civil, polite. He's not rude to the little one. He'll help her reach stuff and let her talk to him, the basic surface level kindness. But that's where it stops. He's cold emotionally. He's still in, this isn't my real family mode, which I get it isn't surprising. But here's where the tension really started. A week ago, my wife and I asked him to sit down and talk with us. Her daughter wasn't home, she was with a friend of mine who she calls Uncle Jake. He offered to take her for a few hours so we could have this conversation privately. It wasn't about punishment or rules or anything like that. We wanted to open up, explain some of the backstory, and give him context. More importantly, we wanted to explain why we're asking for a little more from him than just surface-level civility. My wife did most of the talking. She explained that while she was married, she had an affair, no excuses, no sugarcoating. She owned it. She said she understood how badly she screwed up and how much hurt she caused. She also explained that when her daughter was born, the older kids turned their backs on both of them. They treated the child as a stain on the family. They refused to hold her, acknowledge her, or even say her name at times. They moved out as soon as they were legally able and made it very clear they wanted no contact. One of them told her point blank that they wished the baby had never been born. That kind of rejection messes with a kid, even at 4. She might not understand it fully, but she feels it. Kids know when they're not wanted, and my wife was heartbroken over it. She said meeting me gave her daughter a new shot at having a real family, at being loved, accepted, and treated like she belongs. At that point, I chimed in and explained to my son that this is where he comes in. We weren't asking him to lie or fake affection, but we did want him to start making a genuine effort. She's 4. She's not responsible for how she was conceived. She doesn't deserve to grow up feeling like she's just existing in someone else's house. She needs a big brother. And more than that, she needs to know she's safe. That this is her home, too. We told him that with the family she came from, he could be the first sibling she's ever had who actually wanted her around. His reaction? He looked at both of us and said, "Why is this my problem?" Dead serious. Just that. No other follow-up. That was the first thing out of his mouth. I felt like I got punched in the face. My wife looked like she'd been slapped. I tried to keep it together, but I'll admit I saw red for a second. Not because he didn't immediately embrace the little girl with open arms, but because of the sheer indifference in his tone. It was cold. Borderline cruel. I don't know if he meant it that way, but to us, it felt like he was saying, "Not my mess, not my problem." I asked him to clarify what he meant. He just shrugged and said, "I don't know why you're telling me all this like I'm supposed to care. We've known each other for what? A month and a half? You two are practically strangers." That comment is where I lost my patience. I told him that was a horrific way to respond to being told about a child's pain. That this wasn't just about our relationship, but about what kind of person he wants to be. I told him I wasn't asking him to play dad, but to be kind. To be a brother. To see her as a person and not a project. He doubled down and said, I didn't ask for this family. I didn't ask for her. I'm not trying to be mean, but don't expect me to treat her like my sister, just because you decided to start over. My wife stepped in and said, We're not asking for overnight transformation, but we are asking you to recognize that she needs you. You could be the difference between her growing up feeling wanted or unwanted. That matters. He just sat there, with his head looking down like he was being forced to sit through a lecture he didn't believe in. I asked him what it would take for him to even consider being emotionally available to her. He didn't answer. I said, Look, I know you didn't ask for this, but you did ask to be treated like an adult. So this is part of being an adult, understanding that sometimes life changes, and sometimes you have to decide who you want to be in those moments. This little girl didn't get to choose any of this either. He muttered something under his breath. I didn't catch all of it, but it was along the lines of, I didn't sign up to be her babysitter. Which, again, wasn't what we were asking. My wife said, We did this privately for a reason. Can you imagine how it would have crushed her to hear you say what you just said? That you don't care? That she's a stranger? That's exactly what she's already internalized from her own siblings. Still no real reaction from him. I told him we were trying to give him space, but also guidance. I reminded him that I didn't just marry her for me, I married into a responsibility. That includes the little girl. And yes, it includes trying to foster a real family between the kids. I said, You've said before how lonely it was growing up without a sibling. How hard it was losing your mum so early. This is a second chance at something meaningful. He rolled his eyes and said, Okay, but I'm not just going to pretend I care when I don't. That's fake. At that point, I told him that if he couldn't even try to have some basic empathy, then yeah, his attitude was a problem. He stood up and said, You know what? You both made this decision. Not me. Don't put it on me to make her feel better about how she was born. I told him he was being dismissive and disrespectful, and if he wanted to have adult opinions, he needed to handle adult conversations better. That was a week ago. Since then, the atmosphere at home has been tense. He's not openly hostile, he's not yelling or slamming doors, but the silence is heavy. Polite indifference. He doesn't engage unless spoken to directly. When the little one talks to him, he gives one-word replies or nods. No warmth. No effort. I get that he's a teenager, and teenagers have moods. But this isn't just moodiness. This is intentional distance. He's walling himself off, as if he's trying to prove a point that he's not going to be guilted or manipulated into bonding with a kid he sees as someone else's problem. That's what stings most. She's not a problem. She's a child. She didn't ask to be born under complicated circumstances. She didn't ask to be rejected by her half-siblings. She's just trying to be a kid in a house where she's not sure if she's wanted. And frankly, we tried to do this the right way. We didn't dump this all on him the moment we moved in. We didn't shove her into his room or force them to spend every waking moment together. We eased into things. We were transparent. We had adult conversations. But every time we ask for empathy, he falls back on, I didn't choose this, or, she's not my family. Last night, my wife and I were sitting with her daughter, reading to her before bed. The little one asked where her big brother was. I said he was in his room. She asked why he didn't want to play with her anymore. I didn't have an answer. I told her he was tired. She nodded, but I could tell she didn't buy it. Kids know. They always do. That hit hard. I don't expect my son to become a perfect older sibling overnight, but I did expect some human decency. A willingness to try. At the very least, a recognition that his words and actions have weight, especially around a child this young. This morning, I pulled him aside and asked if he wanted to talk. He said, There's nothing to talk about. I said, There is. There's the way you responded. The tone. The distance. We're not asking you to raise her. But you do live here, and the way you treat her matters. He repeated that he wasn't going to pretend to feel something he didn't. I asked him, Then what do you feel? He just shrugged. I said, You need to understand that how you carry yourself right now is shaping the dynamic in this home. If you keep acting like she's just an inconvenience, that will become the atmosphere she grows up in. You'll be shaping her reality. He said, Then maybe you shouldn't have married someone with a kid if you didn't want this. That one landed hard. Because it's not that I didn't want this. I wanted all of this. I signed up to be her father, to give her the life she deserved. I believed I was also giving my son a second chance at family, a softer landing. I didn't think I'd be met with contempt for that. I reminded him again, no one's asking him to lie. But basic human kindness isn't lying. Empathy isn't fake. You don't have to love someone to treat them with care. And this little girl, she's not asking him to love her. She just wants to feel like she's not invisible in her own home. He said, maybe I just don't want any of this. I asked, you mean the family? The house? Us? He said nothing. Just walked off. So now we're stuck. I don't know how to get through to him. I don't want to force anything. I don't want resentment to fester. But I also won't allow a 4-year-old to feel like an unwanted guest in her own home. Not after everything she's already been through. Not after the effort we've made to protect her from exactly this. I told my son, clearly and directly, that if he can't be kind, then he needs to at least be neutral, but the passive coldness stops now. This isn't going to be a house where silence and side glances send louder messages than words. He doesn't have to act like a brother if he's not ready for that. But he does have to act like a decent human being. He thinks we're being unreasonable, that we're pushing too hard, too fast, that this should all be on his terms. I disagree. Life doesn't work like that. Families don't work like that. We've made comments over the last few days, trying to nudge him towards reflection. My wife said, it's not that we don't care how you feel, it's that we expect more from you, because we know you're capable of more. He rolled his eyes. Tonight, I told him straight. You were out of order last week. The way you responded. That wasn't just a bad moment. That was a character moment. And right now, it's painting a version of you that I don't think is accurate, but it is how you're coming across. He thinks we're ganging up on him. I think we're holding him accountable. AITA? Comments. Comment 1. So wait, your wife abandoned her other kids because they wouldn't pretend the affair baby didn't happen. And now you expect your son to do what her actual children refuse to. And you seriously told him that being emotionally cold to a stranger makes him a bad person. You're completely missing the point. Your son's response was blunt, sure, but it was honest. He's 16. You uprooted his life, forced a new family onto him, and now you're guilt-tripping him into emotionally adopting a child he's known for 5 minutes. He's not the one who broke your wife's family. That's her mess to clean up. And where's the actual father in all this? Is he paying child support? Or is that conveniently omitted? You married a woman whose entire family rejected her, and the child she had from cheating. And now you want your son to be the glue that holds your rebound fantasy together. Get real. YTA. Comment 2. Wow. So your wife torched her first marriage, alienated her existing kids, and now wants your 16-year-old to step in as emotional scaffolding for her affair child. Because you chose to marry her. How is that his job? Your son is absolutely right. It's not his problem. And the fact that you two tried to emotionally ambush him with that sad backstory speech to manipulate sympathy, instead of giving him space and time to adjust. That's on you. He's not the one who made catastrophic life choices with generational consequences. Your wife is. Also, you keep calling the kid your daughter and stepdaughter, and using that as a moral anchor, but you're not even mentioning her actual father. Let me guess, not in the picture and not on the hook financially either. How convenient. OP and wife are delusional if they think emotional labor from a teenager is going to fix the fallout of a decade-long mess. This story reads like a long guilt trip with a side of gaslighting. Comment 3. This feels like a textbook case of parent marries someone with baggage and tries to guilt the kid into being a savior figure. Your wife's past isn't your son's cross to carry. He didn't create the mess, didn't choose this new family dynamic, and yet you're expecting him to compensate for everyone else's emotional damage. He's 16. You want him to be a fully emotionally available big brother to a child he's barely lived with for 60 days, when even the bio-siblings refuse to acknowledge her. Come on. I get that you care about the little girl, and that's admirable. But trying to leverage your son's trauma losing his mom, being an only child to force a bond is messed up. Honestly, everyone sucks here. Your wife for thinking this would be a fresh start instead of a new entanglement. You for not pacing this transition or checking your expectations. And your son for lacking basic tact. But he's a kid. What's your excuse? Update. We've read your comments. I won't pretend we weren't shocked by the tone of many responses. Some were just cruel. But we also saw the common thread, that we weren't telling the full story. That's fair. So here it is. I'm not just her stepfather. I'm her biological father. Yes, I had an affair with my now wife while she was still married. We met through work 5 years ago. It started emotionally, turned physical, and then she got pregnant. She was still living with her husband when she found out. She didn't tell me at first, she was hoping it wasn't mine. But once the paternity test came back, and he left, she contacted me. I was the father. At that point, my son had just turned 11. He was still grieving his mother. I hadn't dated seriously since she passed. I knew the weight this would carry if I told him outright. That I cheated, that I had a child with someone else's wife, that I kept it all quiet. It felt like too much. I chose not to tell him. I justified it as protecting him. In hindsight, maybe it was also protecting myself. My wife and I stayed in limited contact during those first few years. She raised our daughter on her own. Her older kids turned their backs on her. She struggled. Eventually, when enough time had passed and our daughter started asking about her dad, we decided to reconnect. I offered to be in her life officially, not just financially. And when we started considering marriage, we agreed to frame it as a new family instead of opening with the full history. So when I introduced them, I told my son she was my girlfriend, and the little girl was her daughter from a previous marriage. Technically true. Emotionally dishonest. The idea was to settle in, build stability, and then tell him when it felt right. But the conversation last week forced our hand. The way he responded, his indifference, his distance, pushed us to realize that hiding the truth was only making things worse. So we told him everything. We sat him down again a few nights ago. No kid out of the house this time. No buffers. We told him, I'm her biological father. The affair was with his stepmother. The child he's been told is just a stepsister is actually his half-sister. The reason we hid it was because we thought he couldn't handle the truth back then. That we wanted to give him time before bringing it all in. That we hoped one day he'd accept her, and maybe knowing the truth would help him see her as more than just some other guy's kid. He didn't say anything at first. Just stared at both of us. I asked him if he had any questions. He said, so you lied for 5 years, and now I'm just supposed to act like this is fine. We said no, he wasn't expected to be fine. But we expected him to try. She's still a child. She didn't ask for any of this. She's innocent. And she deserves to know her brother. He laughed at us in a mocking way and said, you keep saying she didn't ask for any of this. Neither did I. You cheated on Mom's memory. You had a secret kid. You built this lie around me, and now I'm supposed to play big brother, just because you've decided to feel guilty now. He got up and went to his room. Didn't say another word to us that night. The next day, he packed a bag and went to stay with my sister. I called her, she was furious. Said I was lucky he even spoke to me before leaving. He hasn't blocked me. We've texted. He said he doesn't know what he's going to do next school year. He doesn't want to come back home. Doesn't want to be part of a staged happy family. He said he'd rather stay at my sister's permanently if she allows it. My wife cried for hours. I've tried to keep it together. We thought the blood relation would help. That once he knew she was his actual sister, not just a step, something might shift. We miscalculated, again. We still believe telling him was the right move. He deserved the truth. But I'm not going to sit here and pretend he reacted with some mature, reasoned response. He shut down. He left. That's not growth. That's avoidance. Here's where we are now. I've reached out to a family therapist. I want him to come, even if it's just a vent. He refused for now, but I'll keep trying. My wife and I are moving forward with making my paternity legal. I want my daughter to carry my last name. That might upset my son further, but I can't let her grow up feeling half-claimed. If my son won't come back, I'll keep supporting him wherever he stays. I won't cut him off. But I also won't let him treat my daughter like a living consequence. I still believe he can come around. He's angry now, but he's not cruel. I've seen the way he looks at her when she plays. There's something there, even if he won't admit it. I know many of you will say this makes me a bigger arsehole. That I cheated, lied, and built a family on deception, and now expect my son to carry the emotional fallout. Maybe that's true. But here's what I know. My daughter is here. She's mine. She has no one else but us. And I won't let her grow up feeling like a mistake again. Even if that means pushing through resentment. Even if that means being the bad guy for now. Comments. Comment 1. You really sat down, typed all this out, and still don't realize how monumentally full of SHT you sound. You cheated on your late wife, who your son was still grieving with a married woman, had a kid from that affair, hid it for 5 years, and then dropped the nuclear truth bomb on your son, only after he didn't immediately start playing Big Brother to your stepdaughter. That's not protecting him. That's manipulating the timeline to avoid consequences. Your son didn't shut down. He woke up. He saw that his dad wasn't the man he thought he was, that his family is a lie built on betrayal, and that the one person who was supposed to protect him just threw him under the bus to clean up your mess. And the way you keep referring to the 4-year-old as innocent, like it somehow means your son should magically bond with her? Disgusting. She's innocent. You're not. Stop using her as a human shield to dodge accountability. And don't get me started on your wife. She let you both gaslight your son, then cried when he had a normal reaction to being emotionally ambushed with a lifetime of lies. You two deserve each other, liars, cowards, and master manipulators. Your son deserves peace, and thank God he left when he did. Don't be surprised if he never comes back. You burned his entire world down and handed him the ashes with a therapy brochure. GTFO. Massive, unrelenting YTA. Comment 2. You seriously think your son is avoiding things by leaving your house? That's a teenager realizing that the adults in his life are so morally bankrupt, so shamelessly self-serving, that the only way to survive emotionally is to cut ties. You are not a misguided father. You are the villain in your son's story. You cheated on his dead mom, kept it hidden, raised the affair child on the side, and then had the audacity to lecture him about empathy when you've shown none. You expected him to magically bond with the girl without any honesty. Then when that didn't work, you escalated it by pulling the surprise, "she's your half-sister" card, as if DNA fixes deception. What you did wasn't for him. It wasn't for the little girl. It was for you to ease your conscience and make your disgusting choices look noble in hindsight. What you're calling family is a Frankenstein patchwork of betrayal and manipulation. You didn't give your son a sister. You gave him a permanent reminder of your lowest moment. You might think you're doing what's best for everyone, but what you're actually doing is ensuring your son spends the next decade in therapy, if he even speaks to you again. Second story. My delusional fiancé thinks his cheating is still a secret, and that I'm naive. But I'm well prepared with my exit plan, and I'm leaving his sorry arse in 2 weeks. This happened 7 months ago. I work a not high-paying but decent job and picked up a second job. He thinks I'm working for extra money to buy a new car. He left his email logged in on my laptop, and I saw an ongoing conversation where a woman was sending him naked pictures and talking about hooking up again. He agreed and made a date to pick her up a week from when she sent that email. I opened it because the subject was NSAF, no strings attached. The kicker? He found her on CL. Privately, I got tested. No STDs. I stopped having sex with him, but 1 month after I found the emails. Once I got the second job, I used being too tired as an excuse, so he wouldn't think I found out. But we used condoms because I told him I stopped taking birth control, so I'm clean. Now I have more than enough money saved up to move out. It's been so hard holding back tears and looking him in the eye. But over the last few months I have fallen completely out of love with him. I put in my 2 weeks notice at my second job, and I have suitcases in my trunk. Once the day comes and he's at work, I am packing all my SHT and leaving my ring on the dresser. I deactivated FB last month, but I blocked him before I did. I'm going to block his phone number and Instagram account as well. I have spent months putting this plan together. I can't wait to leave him confused and thrown off. Signed, the sad but soon-to-be single girl. Relevant comments. Comment 1. I hope if ever in the same situation, I can be as strong and resourceful as you are. OP. Trust me, it's hard. I cried for hours when I saw that email, fighting my brain, telling myself maybe it's nothing. It takes a lot for a person to do something to the point where you fall out of love. He did me a favor. That's how I managed to play dumb. Comment 2. It's pretty awesome that instead of being devastated and letting that keep you down, you immediately started a plan. OP. I had 2. He's my first love. I'm 24. He's 26. First serious relationship as well. On top of that, I've never lived alone, so I'm very scared. Comment 3. It is really scary leaving something familiar. But you'll be okay. Living alone is rad. You've already made the first big step, which is having a plan and putting it into motion. Good for you. Comment 4. Dude, good for you. That's awesome. Cheating sucks and is a sore spot for me, and I especially feel the Craigslist thing. I'm sorry that happened to you, but I'm super happy that you're taking care of things and not taking any of that bullshit. Good luck. OP. It's fine. I'm not mad. He's doing me a favor, and teaching me a lesson that someone who can deceive you in such a way and then act like everything is good is not someone to have in your life. Edit. Hey guys, just want to say that I'm not going to leave a printout off his email when I leave, and I'm not going to sell my engagement ring. I'm 24 years old. I don't do stuff for revenge, and I don't want to spite him. He'll just be left blindsided by his actions. I'll post an update after I move to keep you guys informed for the ones asking. I feel so liberated and free, and thank you for all your well wishes. It means a lot. Edit. 2 guys, I kept having sex with him after I found out, because I didn't want to stop abruptly and have him suspect something. Also, I am not going to confront him or give him any explanation, as some of you have suggested. He is the one who had an ongoing sexual relationship with another woman. He had 7 months to confess the truth to me. He had yet to tell me. He has every single opportunity to be honest. And the fact that he's smiling in my face, acting like everything is all fine, why on earth would I give his arse any indication that I'm leaving him? No, dog, lol. Update. 5 days later. Hey guys, some of you asked for an update, so here it is. I got an early move-in, and I just dropped the U-Haul back off. I waited until my now ex-fiancé went to work. I had my clothes packed the night before. I just needed to move most of my stuff. Even though we purchased our couch together, I'm going to let him keep it. I know he was very thrown off and confused when he got home. He had everyone calling me, including both my mum and his mum, asking if everything was okay. He was about to call the cops. I told both my mum and his mum that I moved out because of personal issues. They both said okay. I told his mum we are over. No breaks here. I got a swarm of emails. Here are a few copied ones just to summarize his confused, sad, angry reaction. What's going on? Are you okay? Insert name. Please answer me. You gave me a heart attack. I thought you were dead. You're not going to answer my calls. You blocked me. Since he wouldn't leave me alone, I sent one reply to him that said NSA's X, no strings attached sex. He finally left me alone. Then bombarded my emails once again, saying, you were snooping through my email. Can we just talk in person? I want to make this work. It was a dumb mistake. Of course I had to fight myself not to curse him out. But after about an hour, he left me alone. Next week, once I get everything settled, I'm going to show my parents the new place. My head and heart feel so much lighter. I'm really happy. I'm reading more and meditating. I thought that I would be forever broken, not good enough for anyone else, but I was wrong. Sometimes you need to get hurt really bad before you realize you have to get out for good. This was my breaking point, and I'm thankful that he did me the favor of showing me who he really is. Thank God I dodged this bullet. Thanks for the well wishes once again. Final comments. Comment 1. You should probably let some people you trust know why you're doing this. OP. I told my family I moved. They don't need to know why. We aren't married, and we have no kids. We have no ties to each other to have to get other people involved. Comment 2. You guys were engaged. Isn't that enough of a tie-in for any family or good friend that knows you? Curious why? They don't need to know. But here you are with your updated post, anonymously spilling your heart out with lots of detail about the whole situation to a room full of strangers. I understand that just because someone is family doesn't mean they have a right to your business. But you needed to drop some emotional baggage and chose Reddit as that venue. Perhaps consider opening up a bit to whomever you consider close. It will help in the long run. This was your first real relationship, and you've been absolutely blindsided. Just some advice from someone who has been there. OP. Thanks, I appreciate it. But like I said, I told his mom I'm fine, and I moved out because of personal issues. She will ask him eventually. Comment 3. Certainly dodged a bullet there. I commend you for your initiative and your ability to avoid contact with him. Hopefully you find someone a bit more worthy of your attentions. OP. Right now, I just want to be alone and get used to living alone. I went straight from living with my mum to living with him. It's a new adjustment, but I'm going to get used to it. I have no intentions of getting with anyone right now. Thank you for watching the video. If you are interested in listening to these kinds of stories, we've got more in store for you. Simply subscribe to our channel, hit the like button, and share it with your friends.